Hello, fellow screenwriters. In this episode, we're going to talk about the first act. What is it, what we expect from it, and which are the major plot points in this act. In the three-act structure, it has prevailed to name the beginning of the story, known also as the setup, Act 1. Respectively, Act 2 is the middle of the story and Act 3 the end. In the first act, we get the following information on the story, the world in which this story takes place, the major characters and of course the protagonist, the backstory, and the problem. Since the actual journey or adventure, whatever you want to call it, starts in the second act, the first act is here to prepare us. It is a preparation stage where we're giving all the information we're gonna want, all the baggage we're gonna need with us to follow along in this journey, to be able to follow the rest of the story. But the first act isn't just about information. The first act's job is to initiate the story, to give the push to the protagonist to make this journey. That's why analysts have come up with some plot points that are usually necessary in the Act 1. Even though plot points can help us a lot in writing a story in the right way and achieving an inner harmony in our story, too many plot points could block our creative spirit and trap us. Less is more in this case, so let's see the major and most important plot points of the first act. The major plot points we find in almost every story in the first act are the hook, the inciting incident, the first turning point, the point where Act 1 ends and Act 2 begins. The inciting incident, that's the event that sets the story in motion. Sometimes it can be very subtle, but from this point on, the story starts. The first turning point is an event or incident that turns things around. The problem becomes more imminent for the protagonist, and it's not easy to avoid it now. The point where Act 2 starts is the moment that the actual journey begins. The real adventure starts now for the protagonist. There's also one more plot point in the beginning of the first act. The hook. It's not a necessary plot point, but it's always clever to have something there to grab your audience's attention right away. Sometimes the inciting incident and the hook are the same incident, but other times there are two separate events. I like to use the house analogy for the first act. The inciting incident is the moment when the doorbell rings, or there's a knocking, or some loud noise outside the door. Inside there is the house, the world of the story. That's the ordinary world of the story. No matter how strange you find it, you need to remember that's how ordinary seems in this particular story. We're still in the first act, and along with the world, we get to know all the major characters of the story. And of course, the most important of all, the protagonist. Our protagonist can be a man or a woman, a kid, an elderly couple, a bear, even a snowman. We're still in the first act. Remember that doorbell? Our protagonist finally listens to it and decides to open the door. That's the first turning point. Now that the door is open, the protagonist could first check what is outside that door and take some time to think about it, or act immediately and step across the threshold, leaving the house behind. That's when the second act begins. Because the protagonist is leaving the ordinary world, the comfort zone, the house, and steps out to the unknown world. Let's take, for example, the movie The Silence of the Lambs. The movie begins with Clarice Starling climbing a cliff. She's sweaty and it's obvious that she's been doing exercises and training for something. Someone disrupts her and tells her that Crawford is waiting for her in his office. She leaves immediately, revealing that her trainer is with the FBI. Now, one could argue that this is not much of a hook, but it's a great scene because we get the theme of the story right away. It's going to be a feminist story about a woman succeeding in a man's world.
We're interviewing all the serial killers now in custody for a psychobehavioral profile.
The inciting incident is when Clarice's previous teacher Crawford sends her to interview the serial killer Hannibal Lecter and make his psychobehavioral profile.
Most refuses to cooperate. Here's a dossier on Lecter, copy of our questionnaire, and a special ID for you. Have your memo on my desk by 0800 Wednesday.
Okay. Excuse me, sir, but why the urgency? Lecter's been in prison for so many years now. Is there some connection between him and Buffalo Bill, maybe?
I wish there were. I want your full attention, Starling.
Yes, sir.
Be very careful with Hannibal Lecter.
Hannibal at first toys with her and refuses to answer her questionnaire. But in the end of their first meeting, he decides to help her with her advancement at work and offers her a riddle about a former patient of his.
What is that, Doc?
Advancement, of course. Listen carefully. Look deep within yourself, Clarice Starling. Go seek out Miss Moffat, an old patient of mine. M-O-F-E-T. Go now. I don't think Mix could manage again quite so soon, even though he is crazy. Go now!
She solves the riddle and finds a man's head, for which Hannibal reveals that his real name is Benjamin Raspail and is somehow linked to the serial killer Buffalo Bill.
Transformation, Doctor.
I've been in this room for 8 years now, Clarice. I know they will never ever let me out while I'm alive. What I want is a view. I want a window.
In their second meeting, Hannibal offers Clarice the psychological profile of Buffalo Bill in exchange for a transfer to another prison and a cell with a window. Lecter's offer is the first major turning point of the story.
Case evidence. I'll help you catch him, Clarice.
Physical abuse prior to death. All the mutilation you see there is post-mortem. Skins them.
Crawford then takes Clarice with him in West Virginia to investigate on a new Buffalo Bill's victim that has been found in the lake recently. And here starts Clarice's actual journey, the investigation of the serial killer Buffalo Bill with the help of another serial killer, Hannibal Lecter. And here is where Act 2 begins. But we will talk about Act 2 on a different episode. This one has come to its end. If you'd like to find out more about the inciting incident, the first turning point, or the beginning of Act 2, click the relevant links here, or you can also find them down below. Feel free to make a comment on this video or request a new. Thanks for watching. This is Apollonia and Script Writing Tips.